This screencast is going to be about doing Lewis structures with polyatomic ions. And a difference in a polyatomic ion is something like NH4 and it has a positive 1 charge. What NH4 plus 1 means is that the plus 1 charge means that we have lost an electron, and so we've changed the total number of dots in the picture. Lewis structures are done the same for polyatomic ions as regular atoms, except that you have to account for the overall charge. Polyatomic ions are certain atoms will bond covalently with each other, and they will have a need for either extra electrons or to give up some of their electrons. They have a shortage or an excess of electrons. An example is NH4, as I mentioned earlier, and it has a plus 1 charge. So remember that when we have ions, our protons and electrons are not equal, and the only number that we can change are the number of electrons. So in order to get a plus 1 overall, we have to have lost an electron. So when we're doing this math, we will need to take into account that normally we would expect to see nitrogen has 5 electrons, and these hydrogens have 4. So we would expect to see 9 electrons in this picture. However, we have lost one, so it becomes 8. And I've just seen an error in this screencast. It should not be 7 electrons. It should be 5, which would then change our overall of 9. Here are some examples of Lewis structures for some polyatomic ions. You can see NH4 is right here, and you can see that there are 8 electrons around it. You have nitrate, which is NO3, and NO3 has a minus 1 charge. And then there's sulfate, SO4, which is a minus 2 charge. So if I were to do the math real quick up here in the margin, NO3, we have N and we have 3 O's. Nitrogen provides 5 dots. Oxygen gives you 6 dots. If we do the math, we get 5 and 18, and we add that together, and we would have 23 dots. This is a minus 1 charge, so we have to add 1 electron, because to get a minus 1 charge, you have 1 extra electron, so that would give me 24 dots. If you look at the image here, you can see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. The sulfate over here on the side, we have S, there's 1 of them. We have O, there's 4 of them. Sulfur provides 6 dots. Oxygen has 6 as well. You do the math and you get that you need 30. But this minus 2 tells me that I am adding 2 electrons, so I would have 32 dots in that picture. If you count around the image, you see that there's 32 dots there. Nitrogen over here, the NH4, if we were to do the math real quick, we have 1 nitrogen, we have 4 hydrogens. The nitrogen has 5 dots, the hydrogen each provides 1 dot. Added up, that gets us 9. Now this is a plus 1, so that means that we have to lose an electron, so that gives me 8 dots, which you can see in the picture. So the rule of thumb is that you do the opposite of whatever the charge is mathematically. In the case of the minus 1 here, we added 1. In the minus 2, we added 2. And in the plus 1, we subtracted 1. So it's pretty easy to calculate the number of dots, and then you just follow the rules for the for forming the Lewis structure like normal.